I know it just seems like it got here, but NCAA softball season is almost done. But we do still have the NCAA tournament, and your Auburn Tigers are going to be a part of it. Let's talk about what you need to know for them, but for the rest of the NCAA tournament as well. But before we do that, I want to welcome you back to the channel, whether you're a member of the Auburn family or a fan of another persuasion. This is the E2C network, where we share the whole of the Auburn experience. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. And thank you to members of our booster club like Dustin Smith, who help produce videos like this. I always say to know where you're going, you got to know where you've been. So I just want to take a quick second before we dive into the action about talking about what you need to know for Auburn softball and the NCAA tournament. Let's talk about what brought us here. This season had a lot of high hopes with a lot of talent brought in, and it proved early on that the Tigers had a lot of pop in their bat and a promising pitching staff as well. So this looked like it could have been a year that surprised a lot of folks, and it started that way. A very strong start in non-conference play, and even a strong start in SEC play for Auburn softball. However, as they got into the heat of SEC play, they hit a few roadblocks, kind of went on a little bit of a slump, but then came back out of it for a short amount of time, even though they were struggling to finish games late innings-wise. But they kind of hit those roadblocks again in terms of some bad SEC series and the SEC tournament. We're not even going to talk about that one. I know it wasn't ideal for them, and no one's more disappointed than them and how they finished, but that's the important thing. It's not how you finish in the regular season or the SEC tournament. It's how you finish overall, and your Tigers are now in the NCAA tournament with an opportunity to show that the flashes of brilliance they showed all season are real and bring it all together at the right time. So we're going to talk about what you specifically need to know for Auburn, but also some details after the fact of what you might need to know for the rest of the NCAA action if you're interested in the overall tournament and not just the Auburn specific stuff. Auburn was selected on Selection Sunday to take part in the Clemson Regional. Not too far away from Auburn. We have a lot of history with Clemson. We just can't get away from them. They're our sister school, and we always end up playing them or being a part of a tournament with them. It just is kind of our lot in life. Selected to that regional, so they'll obviously participate with Clemson, along with teams like UNC Wilmington and Louisiana. The basic structure of a regional goes somewhat like this. It's going to be a round robin double elimination type of tournament. We'll start off with some initial matchups, and then the winners will face each other. The losers will face each other on a second day, including another matchup with the one-loss teams, which will finally bring us down to a championship game in effect of the regional, where either the undefeated team can sweep the other teams and move on, or a one-loss team could potentially shock the host potentially in Clemson and move on to the super regionals themselves. That's the basic structure of how a regional works. The initial matchups are going to be Auburn versus Louisiana, and then UNC Wilmington taking on the number 10 national seed Clemson and the host of our regional. But let's specifically talk about Auburn, what you need to know for them, and maybe what their path could be for a little bit of a surprise in the tournament. As I said, they'll be taking on Louisiana. The game will start on Friday, May 20th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch the game right now on ESPN Plus. I believe that's the only broadcasting availability on TV-wise, or you can listen onto the radio, I'm sure. Now, a little bit about Louisiana before we move forward. They are 45-11 on the year. That's their record, and it's pretty impressive. They are also the Conference USA tournament champions. Remember, you can potentially have a regular season champs, but also a conference tournament champion as well, which Louisiana is. Now, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, it's pretty recent that we played them in regional action in the NCAA tournament. So there's a little bit of familiarity here, maybe not with the coaching staffs and the potential players that are here, but we have seen them at least. So it's kind of interesting to see this follow through into the future. So that is all we know right now for facts. Who they're playing in the first game, when, where, opponents, all that kind of stuff. From this point forward, we're going to be talking about Auburn, but also the rest of the NCAA tournament in a what-if kind of fashion, obviously within the context for us of Auburn fans of what might happen or could happen, what might their path be further into the tournament. As I talked about, May 20th is when everything starts, but on May 21st, in the second round of regional action, the winners will face the winners and the losers will face the losers. I would expect, as things are seeded, for Auburn to win that first game would put them in a matchup likely with the host Clemson in that winners versus winners games. I wouldn't expect Auburn to win that one, which would launch them into an elimination game with the winners of the losers versus loser game, which in my mind probably would propel Auburn into that championship round where they would have to beat Clemson twice in a row to move out of the regional. But just kind of looking how things are, I would expect, or at least anticipate, them to fall out of the regional play at that point. Clemson either beating them in the first game in the finals or in that second game if it takes that. So that's the first weekend, but let's talk about what happens after that point, even if Auburn isn't involved. The winner of each regional moves on to a super regional, where it will be a 3-game series where the winner moves on to the College World Series. The highest ranked or highest seeded team will be the one that hosts those super regionals, and unless some crazy stuff happens, there's no way that Auburn's going to be hosting a super regional. Likely, if they do make it out of the regional play, they were going to be playing either Oklahoma State, the host on the other side of that bracket of them, but also it could be a Nebraska who could squeeze out of there. Don't expect that, kind of similar between Auburn and Clemson, but you see that is the possibilities that could be happening. So if Auburn does move on to super regional play, expect them to be out in Oklahoma in Stillwater to take on them there for a 3-game series. What happens after the fact of that? If by some crazy circumstances that they make it past the super regionals into the College World Series, that means there will be 8 teams left and they will enter a double elimination tournament style, just like they did in the regional play, to come down to 2 final teams that will play in the championship game. And in that championship game, it will be a 3-game series to determine your national title game. Now, Auburn hasn't been too far removed when they made it all the way to that point, failing in the game 3 to win the national title, but it was still an incredible year and an incredible team. So that is what you need to know for Auburn. That is what you need to know for NCAA softball action in this tournament. If you have any questions or if you have any thoughts about this or any predictions that you want to share about Auburn and its chances or the tournament in general, keep it down there in the comments section below. Let me know your thoughts there. If you enjoyed this type of content, please do help support it by smashing the like button. If you want more from us, be sure to hit the subscribe along with the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. There's ways to help support our content listed in the description, such as hitting the join button here on YouTube, be a channel member for $1 a month, or heading over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the Booster Club and get yourself some more perks for your financial support of what we do here. Thank you for tuning into the E2C Network, where we share the whole of the Auburn experience. War Eagle.